It says I am live, so welcome. We're doing a late night stream. So I just got through watching a movie with my mom, which it was quite interesting. It's about called Flash of Genius. It's about a man who invents the intermittent windshield wiper. Because apparently windshield wipers before were just they didn't pause. So even if it was just a sprinkle you were looking at instead of so he created it with that ability. Which is interesting. Also spilled a few drops of ice cream on me. I don't know why I felt the need to show you that, but yeah, taking it out of the carton, and here comes the droplets up on the shirt. Bloop. Like, really? Really? Well. Anyway, let's get into today's news. And apparently, Chrome has changed how it looks, so I'm kind of hesitant here. News. The headlines of the day. Mwahaha. Okay, here's what we're talking about. Why do billionaires want to own the news? Duh, why not? I mean, you can affect what they say, what they don't say. It's the same reason corporations own them. You affect what they say and you make money off of it. Why not? I mean, honestly, we need to go ahead and the US have a rule where corporations are not allowed to own the news. The news can be for profit and so on, but there does need to be a rule like oh goodness, what was that? The Truth in Reporting Act, I believe it was. Harry S. Truman signed it to bring the media to tell the truth because, of course, we'd come out of the age of yellow journalism. Was it Truman? Yeah, it had been Truman because he came in 45 and ended World War II. I think the Truth in Reporting Act was signed in 46. So, but anyway, that's why billionaires want to own the news. Kavanaugh accuser wants FBI to investigate before she testifies. I don't blame her. I'd want them to look too. I think Republicans are a bit nervous because we've had the Me Too movement and, a forced rape of a girl, especially when she was at that young of an age, even though he was young too, is a bit bad. I know apparently one of the Republicans put out a letter that 65 women signed. It said, "Oh, he's a good guy," but then some of the women came back later and said, "We didn't know why we signing it," and some have even uh, fully withdrawn their signatures and said no. And then I've also heard that there's like some 200 people that signed the letter saying, "No, this is common Kavanaugh behavior." China hits back at Trump with tariffs on $60 billion of U.S. goods. So he just put on those $60 billion in tariffs. China's like, all right, we're going to put 60 more on. And it's like, dumbass. Tariffs have never, ever been a good idea for a global trade war. I swear the president is a moron. Full disclosures by Stormy Daniels has few bombshells. XRP price surge. Let's see what else is here. Florence flooding threats still real. Do not try to return home yet. Hell, it just recently passed through this area, so I don't blame them. Let's see. The truth about the either Brett Kavanaugh or Christine Blasey Ford is lying. We don't know which one. Here's what we do know. So more information on assault accusations. South Africa's highest court legalizes cannabis use. It's why it was banned. Well, I don't want to say I don't know. I actually do understand it very well. Harry Anslinger needed something to use to help demonize minority races, especially African American races. And during the age of jazz, during the 1920s, why not? Let's demonize marijuana, cannabis, hemp. So, yeah. Apple CEO Tim Cook defends pricing of new iPhones. Some of them are over $1,000. I'm sorry, no. A phone and a mobile phone does not entail that much worth. I don't care. $500 is plenty, especially when wages have stagnated. They may have slowly gone up, but the prices of other things have basically froze them. Grizzlies' unusually aggressive behavior in Wyoming a puzzle. Ooh, Tesla is now facing a U.S. criminal probe over Elon Musk's statements. Tesla Incorporated is under investigation by the Justice Department over public statements made by the company and by CEO Elon Musk. And all this while the British Thai cave diver or cave rescuer has now sued Elon Musk for libel. It's ridiculous. Champion college golfer Celia Barquin Rosamena stabbed to death. Huh. She was found dead on an Iowa golf course. Wow. Do, do, do. Uh, let's go one more level on the headlines, see what else is going on. BMW, Daimler, and Volkswagen face EU diesel emissions probe. Huh. Oh, and I want to speak on one more thing. Orrin Hatch is an asshole. I'm sorry for the language. I'm sorry if you don't like it, but he seems to do this. If a man gets accused of rape, he's like, don't believe the woman. I mean, not really in those words, but his attitude is the same. I just wanted to get that off my chest. But Elon Musk unveils first tourist of SpaceX moon loop. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that is today's headlines. Let's try this again. One more. I'm telling you, computer. One more time. Science. We all should believe in science. If you don't, you're a moron. Sorry, just a fact. There are about 20,000 human genes. So why do scientists only study? It's like so many. I guess it's the 23 or so. Yeah, study a small fraction of them. Only about 2,000 of the roughly 19,000 human genes that code the proteins. That code for proteins. Okay. World's largest general science society. Okay, stripping honors from. See what this story is about. From scientists found to be sexual harassers. Harassment has no place in science, says Margaret Hamburg, president of the AAA's. And who is the AAAS, who is the publisher of Science. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you if they have certain honors and her sexual harassers, by all means, strip them of those honors. Mosquitoes may be contaminating ecosystems with tiny bits of plastic. Huh. Let's see what else we got. Spock's homeworld has been discovered. Sort of. Gotta read into this, see what they say. Spock's homeworld has been discovered. Sort of. Now it seems he accurately predicted a location for science. Okay. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, was visionary in many ways. The Enterprise crew's communicators presaged today's smartphones. Bones sick bay modern mirrored a modern medical scanners. And well, we're still working on that transporter. Now it seems he accurately predicted a location for Science Officer Spock's home planet, Vulcan. The magazine Sky and Telescope reports this week that back in 1991, Roddenberry and three astronomers from the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics in Cambridge, Massachusetts, declared in a letter to the magazine that Vulcan would most likely orbit the star 40 Eridani A. Although not mentioned in the original TV series or later feature films, a number of stars had been put forward by Trekkies on the likely scale of, or likely locale of Vulcan. Roddenberry and his co-authors argued that 40 Eridani A was the most likely because at 4 billion years old, an orbiting planet would have had long enough to evolve a superlogical being such as Spock. Huh. Now, astronomers have found that 40 Eridani A, an orange dwarf star 16 light years from Earth, does indeed have a planet. The Dharma Planet Survey, which is looking for low mass planets around bright nearby stars, reports in a paper due to appear in the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomy Astronomical Society that the putative Vulcan, officially known as HD 26965b, and shown above in an artist's illustration, is 8 times the mass of Earth. That means it will have high gravity, probably too high to support any sort of alien life. It also orbits close enough to its star to be very hot, but then Spock was always known to keep a cool head when the pressure starts to climb. So yeah, there's technically a planet, but it's likely not to have life-supporting capabilities. Nocturnal pollinators. Moths. Yeah, I could see that. They're basically nighttime butterflies. Tess is now doing science, really big science. Yeah, we spoke on Tess yesterday, the Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite. Let's see what else is in science. Antarctic glacier gets new name in wake of sexual harassment finding. Huh. Let's see. The changes sparked by the Me Too movement have now reached Antarctic glaciers. Last week, the Marchant Glacier was renamed the Matatua or the Matatawa Glacier in the wake of finding of sexual harassment against its namesake, geologist David Marchant. The change was made by the U.S. Board on Geographical Names, or on Geographic Names, in Reston, Virginia, part of the U.S. Geographical Survey. So they even renamed a glacier because of sexual harassment. I told you this may bring Kavanaugh down. It's big right now. Evidence-based medicine group in turmoil after expulsion of co-founder. Early tests paved the way for a giant neutrino detector. That's interesting. What else? All right, that looks like all of today's science headlines. Let's see today in history. History. What happened today in history? So today, the Capitol cornerstone is laid. Basically, the cornerstone of the Capitol building, which is the home of Congress. Congress is in the Capitol building, and the White House, of course, houses our chief executive. Today, the Capitol building, with its famous cast iron, became cast iron dome, an important collection of American art, is part of the Capitol complex, which includes 6 congressional office buildings and 3 Library of Congress buildings. Let's see what else. Today in 1975, Patty Hearst captured. She was part of the, oh goodness, the killer. Well, I thought she was. The Manson family. That was what I was thinking of. But apparently they don't say anything about it. They do mention her ties to William Randolph Hearst, who was, of course, um, famous for owning one of the big papers during the era of yellow journalism. But yeah, newspaper heiress and wanted fugitive Patty Hearst is captured in a San Francisco apartment and arrested for armed robbery. On February the 4th, 1974, Patricia Hearst, the 19-year-old daughter of newspaper publisher Randolph Hearst, was kidnapped from her apartment in Berkeley, probably by the Manson family. I swear, I think they were tied to Manson. Let me look up the information. No, it's not Manson. They were part of the Symbionese Liberation Army. Let's see. But it was around the same time as the Manson family. See, 1945 on this date, MacArthur in Tokyo. General Douglas MacArthur moves his command headquarters to Tokyo as he prepares for his new role as architect of a democratic and capitalist post-war Japan, which I honestly feel they have the right to become their own country again. I mean, we've kind of had a play in Japan for, well, since 45. Today, 1996 in sports, Roger Clemens strikes out 20 again. Today in 1973, future President Jimmy Carter files a report with the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, or NICAP, claiming he had seen an unidentified flying object in October of '69. Which is fine if you actually say yes, it's an unidentified flying object, because it's an object that was flying that I couldn't identify. Still could be a plane, still could be a helicopter. It wasn't necessarily a UFO, which automatically conjures ideas of little green men and spaceships. No, that's not necessarily the idea, but unfortunately, that's what it's become. Today in 1846, the struggling Donner Party sends someone ahead to California for food. And of course, I know some people aren't too familiar with the Donner Party, but they got stuck in a blizzard. There was a little troop that was heading out west, and they got caught in a blizzard and ended up eating their dead because their help from California didn't get back in time. Do do. What else? 1960. Today in 1960, Fidel Castro arrives in New York City as the lead of the Cuban delegation to the United Nations. Castro's visit stirred indignation and admiration from various sectors of the American society and was climaxed by a speech to the United Nations on September the 26th. Today in 1862, Confederate General Robert E. Lee's army pulls away from Antietam Creek near Sharpsburg, Maryland, and heads back to Virginia. The day before, at the Battle of Antietam, Lee's forces had engaged in bloodiest one-day battle of the Civil War against the army of General George McClellan. And McClellan lets Lee retreat from Antietam. That's one of the reasons Lincoln would fire McClellan as head of the Union Army. I think he would go through McClellan and another general before he finally settled on Ulysses S. Grant, because he felt McClellan would never finish the job. He would always let them go. And the second one, I forget what they said his complaint with him was. But yeah. And that was today in history. So that was today's headlines, science, and history. Now, one thing I did want to talk about. It's been kind of big in my YouTube news feed recently. A lot of videos talking about it. That's Article 13 as pushed by the European Union. And it's basically on the copyright by the European Union. Now, the wording in it is very bad and portends a lot of horrible situations. And a lot of people are claiming it could be the end of the meme generation of the internet. But I recently watched one of the channels I tend to watch, which is of a copyright lawyer. And he basically was with a panel of other people, and he reviewed over it, and he said, from what he understands, they didn't technically pass the law, Article 13. They just were working on the wording of it. Then they've got to pass the other law. He seemed to have this as a confirmation by someone within the panel who sounded like they were Scandinavian, so they were likely a citizen of the EU. Of course, I could be wrong on this, but that's what it seems to be from my understanding. But a lot of people on the internet are talking kind of big on this, because I had like 2 or 3 other channels that mentioned Article 13, including Philip DeFranco, Mike the Music Snob, Check out both channels if you haven't already. And they referenced Article 13. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting event that's kind of happening right now, and how it ends up, I'm not sure. But it doesn't seem to be talked about too much in the major media outlets, even though everybody else on the internet is freaking out over it. So it's kind of hard telling. Um, but yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. I don't really have too much to talk about today. Working more on my videos. Trying to get that little backlog built, which I've got one video with this information and graphics. I just need to shoot and edit, which I will do this weekend. But I'm already working on the information for another video, so I'm trying to get a backlog built. What else? I guess that's really it for now. That's all I kind of want to talk about. Like I said, I didn't have too much today, but I did want to kind of get a quick video out there. And oh yeah, I do apologize for yesterday. Tomorrow we will do the headlines and everything. Headlines, science today, and history. But I also plan to read some on, I guess, societal and political information. And I think I'll start with the book Freakonomics. Thursday, I don't know, it'll just be a regular video, but then Friday, we'll continue along in the Western civilizations teaching I kind of started last weekend. So that's what we're kind of doing this week. But yeah, educate thyself. You know, you've got to read, study, think, learn. Your knowledge, your information can often be just as useful to you as fists, sometimes more so. Some people want to solve everything through physicalities, but other people can through brute intellectualism. Just overpowering somebody mentally. But yeah, love you all. Hope you have a good one. I'll be on tomorrow. See you then. Later.